Let's move on to the third example, which is going to slightly challenge what we've talked about here, but it's not going to challenge it to the point that it breaks down. Not at all. So this one is going to be from German, and I'm going to actually use. So in this example, I'm going to use this article from English Wikipedia, which talks about this phenomenon in German, which is called Ich laut and Ach laut. So those are the two, these terms, Ich laut and Ach laut. They just talk about two sounds that exist in the German language. So the Ich sound and the Ch sound. And basically the point is that those two sounds are actually one phoneme. So just think about what we've just been looking at with these Spanish and English examples. So this ch and ch, those two sounds in German are allophones of one and the same phoneme. And in this article we can take a look at the explanation. So it says Ich laut is the voiceless, palatal fricative, but we don't need to go into that much detail. Basically, it's found in the word ich, and the ch sound is found in the word ach. And here it says the allophone ch occurs after back vowels, and the vowel a and a. For instance, in the word Buch, which which means book, and the allophone ch occurs after front vowels. For instance, in the word mich, which means me, myself. And the ch sound also occurs after consonants, like in the word Furcht, which means fear, and manchmal, which means sometimes. So the point of this little passage is that these two sounds, like we just talked about in the English and Spanish examples, occur in different circumstances. And the linguists say that they occur in complementary distribution. So basically, there is one subset which only occurs in certain circumstances, and then there's another subset that occurs in different circumstances, and they never cross. So that's what, generally speaking, that's what basically complementary distribution means. But if we look over here, it says basically that there are certain exceptions to this rule, and basically this exception is the reason I want to talk about it is to show that as the language evolves, as new things happen, the system can shift, and then certain allophones can become phonemes. And perhaps this is what is happening in German here. So here it says that usually this ending triggers umlaut, which is a certain vowel transformation in German. For example, there's a word Hund, which means dog, and Hündchen, which means little dog. So this is the umlaut that they're talking about. So the U sound becomes U. And then they say, so theoretically, it could only occur after front vowels. So this chen ending, which is a diminutive suffix, so it makes something small. So the Hund is a dog and Hündchen is a small dog. And so that chen ending can, theoretically, only occur after front vowels, which this U is a front vowel, and the vowel in Hund is a back vowel. So this vowel transforms because there is that ending, that chen ending. But then it says that, however, in some comparatively recent coinings, there is no longer an umlaut. For example, in the word Frauchen, a diminutive of Frau, which means a woman, so there is a back vowel followed by a ch, even though normally it would be followed by a ch, as in rauchen, to smoke. So this example just shows that a language can shift and sometimes allophones can become separate phonemes, and there's a term for this here. It is called phonemicization, which basically means becoming a phoneme. So it's talking about a phone, a separate phone, which is also an allophone, a certain phoneme, of course, and it becomes a separate phoneme on its own. So it says here that this exception to the allophonic distribution, like that complementary distribution that I mentioned, says that it may be an effect of the morphemic boundary or an example of phonemicization, where erstwhile allophones undergo split into separate phonemes. So basically the point is that it's not very clear why this is happening, but it might be the case that in German this process of phonemicization is taking place. Because there are these recent words, like recent coinings, as they say here, that have this kind of violation of that complementary distribution. So the language can change, but generally when you're learning languages, you should think about phonemes and them having allophones. But if there are certain cases like this in the language that you're learning, like if you are learning German, let's say, it doesn't mean that you have to abandon everything and say that it's just all nonsense, because it's not. It's just a small shift in the system. It's not like everything falls apart once there is a little deviation. In general, that's how it works, and that's how you should think about it, and that's what makes sense. What makes sense to think about when you are analyzing the language, to help yourself make sense of what is going on. So that's the Ich-Ach example, and let's now take a look at another example from English. Let's see. Yeah, I said there was 5 examples. There's actually I have another one from Spanish. Okay, let's take a look at the English one first. So let's take a look at this word, at these 2 words. The first one is ladder, as in former and latter, and the second one is ladder, as in a ladder that you climb. That ladder. So let me see. So when I say these words, you'll notice that I'm pronouncing them the same. But if I wanted to, in American English, I'm talking about American English right now. So these words, I could pronounce them in principle as latter and ladder, but that usually doesn't happen. In normal speech, usually these words are pronounced the same, ladder and ladder, without any difference. So what is going on here? Let's take a look. I think I'm gonna end on this example because the video is getting really long, and I think these examples are enough to convey the point. If not, I'm gonna just make additional videos later and talk about it a bit more. So let's see. So I'm gonna write the phonemic transcription first. Ladder. So this example actually shows something different from what we talked about before, so that's what's worth doing. Okay, so that, and so what is different about this example is that I don't actually need to write phonetic transcription for each word because they are pronounced the same. I can just say that in this case it becomes this, And this symbol is just, it stands for that alveolar flap, as it's called, that like that sound that you can hear when this word is pronounced, like as it is normally pronounced, as it is usually pronounced in speech. So let's see, ladder and ladder. So the stress is on the first syllable. So what we can see here is that in this case, the distinction between these two phonemes, like this phoneme and this phoneme, so the T phoneme and the D phoneme. I don't really like calling them that, but these things, right? So the distinction in this case becomes neutralized, and that's what it is called. It's called the neutralization of distinction, of phonemic distinction. So this is also something that might happen. So in certain circumstances, so the T and D phonemes are normally obviously distinct, but in certain cases they can become indistinguishable, like in this case. And so that's one way to look at it. There's also an alternative way of analyzing it, which is saying that basically we can think about one and the same phoneme underlying that. So let me just write down the transcription first real quick. So another way of saying it, like another way of analyzing the situation, is to say that we don't know, like, is it a T phoneme underneath there? Is it a D phoneme? Maybe it's just one and the same. Maybe you could think about it as the same element, and that element is usually written with a capital letter in the phonemic transcription, like I wrote it here. And this is not IPA, by the way. It's not International Phonetic Alphabet. It is just a symbol that is used in this particular type of analysis. And this is called an archiphoneme. An archiphoneme or an archiphoneme. No, it's an archiphoneme, I think. Pretty sure it's that. So an archiphoneme is another way of analyzing this. So this is kind of, I don't know, you can look at it one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. You can say that there's an archiphoneme underlying this. Like if we just forget about the writing, you can say in this case it's an archiphoneme. There's no way to tell which phoneme is underneath there, so you can say that there is such a thing. But on the other hand, these words are, if like in deliberate, careful speech, if they are pronounced like latter and ladder, like I already mentioned, that's also possible. So you could say that there are two separate phonemes. I think that both analyses contribute something, and they're just two ways to look at it, and each one like gives you a certain perspective that can help you conceptualize and understand better what is going on. So I think that we're gonna stop with the examples here because it's just getting too long. Maybe I'll make other videos talking about this again. I'll definitely be coming back to this topic in other videos, so it's okay. It's enough to have this number of examples.